Welcome, welcome, welcome to the SUBHUB podcast. I'm EmKay Sullivan.
And I'm Dani Moreno. And today we are jam, fun, filled, squeeze packed in here with some results, some previews. We are definitely going to go over Headlands 27K, the speed roller coaster madness that was in Marin Headlands this past weekend for the second to last stop of the Golden Trail World Series. And then before we dive into this weekend's race, Mammoth Trail Fest, we are also going to cover the rut and do a quick preview on Pikes Peak. But first and foremost, EmKay, how are you doing post that F1 racing that was Headlands 27K?
Oh my gosh. I think I texted you afterwards. You were like, "Are you going to Mammoth?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." I was so not ready to like run that hard again for 2.5 more hours. But I'm like 2 days removed and I have forgotten how bad it felt and I feel okay now. But it was insane. Like I knew it was going to be insanely fast, but having not worked on anything, like I haven't done a ton of like work over zone 2 this year. And so to try to run in like zone 3, zone 4 for that long, oh my God. Like the first two climbs, I was feeling good. I was feeling fresh. I was running downhill really well. And that third climb, I was like, okay, I actually might die out here. Like it's only a 2.5 hour race, but like this may be the end of me. But I
It's
had a lot of fun.
I'm glad. I mean, you also said that in your first couple of texts that it was just so fun. Yeah, there isn't anything quite like the race engagement of a 2 hour-ish race. And that's a
Yeah.
long time to be pushing that hard. I mean, that's similar to a marathon effort where you're
Yeah.
just trying to rev the engine constantly. And especially with this race with 3 climbs, 3 transitions, or maybe 4 transitions, it's really hard to get your energy system locked in for
Yeah.
every single climb.
Yeah, it's like I crossed the finish line and Tommy was like, "How did you feel?" And I was like, I kind of feel like I could have done it again. Like I really gassed myself, but I'm also not like so tired, which tells me like what we already knew that my base is like really, really big right now, but I just like do not have speed. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty recovered today because I couldn't run as hard as I maybe could have if I had like done this 2 years ago. But
Yeah.
it was it was incredible.
I mean, you did have pretty much your whole year you were training for 100K distance too.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised your engine is big. And you're still very fast. The whole race was just insane. I mean, going back to what we predicted for the times I originally said were kind of closer. And then even both you and I were like, no, can people run that fast on these trails? Yep, they definitely did. And
Yeah.
the gaps we saw coming out of this, it just proves time and time again that in Marin Headlands, those trails are just wicked fast. Like you had a little bit of everything, but you can really go on those.
Yeah, I mean there was only one descent that was like technical. The descent down to Stinson Beach was like really narrow and switchbacky and kind of like there were stairs and also roots. So at least for me, that was like really slow, but I'm sure for other people it was not. The rest of it was like just straight California carpet. Like you gain 1,500 feet in 2.5 miles, and you're like, how did we get here? I don't even remember how we did this. It happened
But
so fast.
yeah, honestly, I had a lot of FOMO following along. And then it reminded me that I'd love to go race in the Marin Headlands again. I've done it like earlier in my career, maybe once or twice, maybe
Yeah.
3 times. Um, but yeah, just seeing the videos of those trails, they look so flowy and just beautiful. Especially this time of year, I was surprised how green it was, to be honest.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there. This was I ran my second trail race ever in like 2019 out here. And
Which
I
race was
remember
that?
it was the Marin Headlands 27K or something. Or no, it was
Like,
Table Rock 27K. They don't have it anymore. But I remember finishing that race and like thinking, I'm never running out here again. Like stairs are the worst. And then I did it again, and I was that third climb was the climb that I remember thinking that, 5 years ago, and I was out there and I was like, what did I do? Why did I do this to myself? But no, the trails out there are awesome.
yeah, I mean, first impression, do you think Golden Trail should come back to that race, or do you think they will?
I think they should. The only downside that I felt of that race was that you finished like out in a field kind of near Muir Beach. Like you weren't I feel like if there is a way to do it, it would be really cool to be able to finish like somewhere near Mill Valley or something where you're like in town. That was kind of the only downside for me. But I mean, that's like small potatoes. The actual race course itself was, I think, perfect for a lot of those Golden Trail athletes.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, and looking at it, it kind of was just one big loop too, right?
Yeah.
The course itself.
It was like a flower, but we never actually came to the same point at the top, but we came close enough that all the spectators had plenty of time to get to like each of the three summits.
I love that. Yeah, I hope they keep it in too, because I feel that it, one, allows Americans who can't travel across the world, who want to try and participate in the series. Granted, both of the races this year are in California, but in that case, you could try and take one big trip since it's within the week. But it's also nice to have some versatility for those athletes that do come from a road background to try trail running before, they dive into, say, Zagama and are potentially traumatized by that experience with how technical it is. Um, to get their feet a little wet with like rolling terrain and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, for also before we dive into the results, I learned via a message in Instagram. Sorry, gentlemen, I forgot what your name was, but he was saying that they couldn't have the live stream not because there wasn't any service, but because of permitting. Because maybe it's like a state park or something like that.
It is. It's like Redwood State Park or Golden Gate State Park or something like that.
Yeah, so I guess it actually had to do more with that than actual service out there,
That's kind of a
potentially.
bummer.
I know, right? Um, And I do have to toot my horn a little bit. I got fifth place in free trail fantasy. Turns out when I'm not racing myself, when I'm not racing myself, I actually try really hard and can do well in this free trail fantasy.
I love it.
Yep.
I probably should have done free trail fantasy even though I was racing because I probably would have done pretty well.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a very fun one to do. But can you shout these incredible women's results since you were in the race? And then actually, if you can give some insight to how it played out from your perspective.
yeah, for sure. So I'll go through the results a little bit and then I'll flourish. But Joyce Injero, who won the Broken Arrow 26K and VK here just like a couple months ago, comes back to the US, smashes it again, wins in 2:17:34, followed closely by Madalena Floria in 2:18. Lauren Gregory has a great race, finishes third in 2:19. Judith Wider, coming off of OCC, gets fourth place in 2:22. Oria Lisai, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Very nice girl. Met her for a little bit after the race. She is 22 years old. Fifth place, 2:24:27. Meow Yao, coming off of OCC, also still finishes fifth place in 2:25. That might be the most impressive performance of the day because I swear to you, she was running with me in like 12th place for a while. Anna Gibson, 2:25:40 in seventh. Julia Font, 2:25 in eighth. Ali Ostrander, 2:27th, and Rachel Tomajic in 2:27. And that's your top 10. So the course started off with like two flat miles. And I was in it because
I saw some
my
videos.
yeah,
Yes.
my coach told me to just like go out with the front women and he was like, you've got nothing to lose, just send it. And if you die, you die, which is what happened. But that's okay. Because I got to see the front of the race. We
You were
went out
supposed to have your
hard.
GoPro.
I
I can't believe
know.
you forgot.
I should have had my mic and I should have been talking to people the whole time. So I actually went out in the front because I knew that we were going to bottleneck into a single track like immediately. And I was like, whatever, these people can pass me. I don't want to be passing people. So I went out in front. Madalena like cut in front of me for the single track, but then there was this creek crossing that we went over and I just went through the creek and she went over some logs. So I passed her again. Was in like first for a bit. She passed me hard and then Joyce passed me hard. And then I think it was Judith and the three of them were like in front basically until we started climbing like a mile and a half to 2 miles in.
So this is still in the first climb.
This is before the first climb. So it's like
Okay.
flat for
Okay.
2 miles. And then when we got to the first climb, it was like
Oh, I see. Yes.
Madalena went out hard. Joyce was right with her, Judith right behind her. And then it was like me, Lauren Gregory, Anna Gibson, and Emma Cook Clark. And then there was another gap back to like the rest of the field. I think Oria might have been with us at that point too. And we climbed, I mean, pretty much together all the way to the top. Like I think I was in like seventh place at the top of the first hill, and I think I was only 40 seconds behind Joyce and Madalena. And then there was just like a whole horde of women behind us. And Judith was looking rough. Like I remember thinking when we first got to the downhill, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna beat Judith Wider today. Because that was when I was still feeling really good.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, she was just looking rough on the climb. And same with Meow. Meow Yao was also kind of in there with us, but then she fell off big time. And I was like, makes sense. Like they just came off of OCC, like whatever. And then second downhill, Judith just left me. Or first downhill, she left me out. She was gone. And I was like, well, actually, just kidding. I'm not beating Judith. I probably will see her today. But Emma Cook Clark ended up maybe dropping out because I passed her with like an ankle roll. But I think that Joyce and Madalena led like the entire day by themselves. You know, nobody ever really challenged them. But I think that like Anna Gibson, Judith, Lauren Gregory kind of went back and forth for most of the day. Meow Yao and didn't pass me until maybe right before the second summit. And then I think she caught, and at that point, I think I was in like 12th or 13th. So she was like she'd fallen way back. And I would guess that she passed most of those people on the downhill to Stenson because it was like pretty technical and she's pretty good at that stuff. And also she's very good at stairs, which makes sense because she trains in China, which
Yeah.
if anybody's ever raced in Hong Kong, I don't know how similar where she lives is, but it's just like stairs and stairs and stairs. So I'm like hiking the stairs as hard as I can because my legs are too short to run them, and she's just like powering up these stairs. But then I'd catch her again when we were on just like regular trail. So it was such a weird thing. But yeah, so she must have made up a ton of ground just on that
Technical.
second descent and then the final climb.
Wow.
Julia Font passed me maybe at the top of that climb as well with Meow Yao. So I'm guessing she ran with her most of the day. Oria didn't pass me until like much later. So that girl really moved up as well. Like all of these women just like
Yeah.
ended up going out in like 12th or 13th place and just spent the entire last descent and climb passing people, which is super cool.
That is super sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, first place 217, 10th place 227. So almost exactly. It is almost exactly 217.34, 227.33.
Yeah.
10-minute gap. And then on the men's side, almost exactly a 10-minute gap too. They were 9 minutes. So very close racing. And seeing the shots of the women's race, because what's really cool about Golden Trail World Series, they've always been ahead of the game as far as equal coverage for women and men. And the women raced on the first day, which was Friday.
Yeah. We raced on Saturday.
And the men were on Sunday, so both got all of the attention from the media, which I thought was really, really cool. But yeah, seeing the shots of the women just like it's like a couple of curves and there's like 6 women in a single
Yeah.
photo, and seeing the times of these results, you could definitely imagine why that was. A couple things before we move to the men. Joyce, great job.
Broke it. She broke it.
She broke my witch twitch. Madalena was so close. I wasn't really rooting for one more than the other. But when I saw them leading, I was like, for the sake of my witch twitch, Madalena, come on, like bring it. But Joyce is the first woman this year to get her second win in the World Series, which the past couple of years, there's always been someone, whether it's Maud or EmKay
or
Sophia, who have won 2 races within like the first 4 races. And so it's like they already have a huge gap. So that was really cool to see. Madalena obviously flourishing. And then huge shout out to Lauren Gregory. She got 5th at Flagstaff Sky Peaks 2 years ago. And I don't think she's run a Golden Trail World Series race since then. I'm like fairly sure.
She hasn't. She tried to run Poland, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yes, that's right. But monster race, her gap ended up being 6:07, just to like give you an idea of how fast these women were running. So Joyce might have been like 6 flat, which is absurd.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
something that I was just
Sorry,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
something that made the women's race even more exciting, I think, is that I mean, you've run in the trees like it, Auburn, how you can kind of get lost in there and you're not really sure how
Totally.
close people are. It
Yeah,
was so foggy that even when we opened up on that final descent, I couldn't see anyone. So
that's
like you
sick.
didn't really know where you were a lot of the times unless you were in the trees where the fog wasn't. But even then you're in the trees, so you don't want to look around too much. It was really interesting. The men got more of a sunny day, like kind of all around.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. That's really cool. I do want to remind the folks that Lauren ran 5:17 this June in the 5K because she still pretty much had
15,
a whole
17.
oh 15,
Yeah.
17, yeah. She pretty much had a whole track season. So it's really cool to see her and Anna Gibson taking to the trails while still hitting track because I mean Anna was in the final for the 1500. Um, but yeah, I won't say too much about them. We'll talk more about them in a little bit about Mammoth Trail Fest. But yeah, huge shout out to Lauren Gregory for her first podium. And Judith Wider,
So
just like
impressive.
coming off of OCC
And
and doing
meow.
that. And Meow, fourth and sixth, like having personally been there, um, I think I got sixth at flag. Yeah, because I was behind Lauren. I was so freaking tired that entire race. So I can't imagine running this fast of a race after OCC, after just running like 6 hours. Insane.
I mean, you could tell they were tired. Those two are just so experienced. They know
Yeah.
how to continue to push when they are freaking exhausted.
Yeah, and I think they played to their cards. Like Judith was like, "All right, here's a downhill. I gotta
Yeah,
go."
she was
And
hammering
then
those.
and Meow's like, "Okay, I'll wait till it's technical and then I'll just go because I'll create some separation."
Yeah.
But yeah, insane women's race. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. Mammoth Trail Fest. Let's transition to the fantastic, the Fantastics.
The Fantastics.
Which is like Golden Trail has this thing where they'll like give people nicknames. So like Ninkes was the Flying Dutch Woman. I think Ali Mack is the American Rocket. So it's just
Yeah.
like these fun ones. El Hussein El Azui, they call what do they call him? The speeding camel or something.
Yeah, something
I
like
don't know
that.
if he likes that one, but like what they've called El Hussein, Philemon, Patrick, and Remy this year, I'm seeing it for the first time, is the Fantastics, which I think is a way of saying like the Fantastic Four without copyright issues. And these men freaking delivered. Did you get to watch them in person?
No, I went
Okay.
home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, do yourself a favor. If you want a snippet of how fast these guys were running, go to the Golden Trail Instagram. I think the video of El Hussein and Philemon coming in is already like racking up. Yeah, it's already at 659K views in just a couple days. But go check that out. And for perspective, Philemon's Strava for his gap, it's 5:11.
So
Yeah,
gross.
so gross. They were running so fast. And so the last downhill seems to be like it was one of the fastest downhills despite there being switchbacks. A 5K within that downhill, he ran 14:11. And at some point, he ran 62 for a 400 meter.
Yeah, the first like mile
What?
and a half of that downhill was just like screaming fast. But when you read me their last mile, I just like truly don't know how they did that because the switchbacks were like full stop zigzags and they were like very clear. Like Greg went out and actually marked the course the day before so that people could not cut switchbacks.
Yeah, because that was a rule that they made sure to make
Yeah.
clear. Yeah. Wow, that's insane. Yeah, 459 for is this Philemon? Yes. 459. Oh, sorry, no. He went 429, 433, 440 for his last 3 miles. Absurd. Wow. But yeah, El Hussein proving he's the one to beat this year. I mean, it still came down to the finishing kick. These races are proving time and time again, like you need to be at your best. Outkicked Philemon Kiriago. Philemon, man, 2 outkicks between Sears and Al in this race. If anything, I think it's a testament to him that he's somehow always involved in these
Yes.
historic kicks. Patrick ended up third, his teammate only 32 seconds behind El Hussein, so within 150 meters. Remy Bonnet ends up fourth place. This is his first loss on American soil for Golden Trail World Series races. He's won the last 2 years, clean sweep, so his third year. That's insane. And Christian Allen finishes his highest finish in a Golden Trail World Series, first American in 5th place.
Rallies from OCC.
Rallies from OCC. I'm really happy he got this result. Like,
me too.
Yeah.
This race makes a lot of sense for him, so it's not
Yeah.
surprising, but I'm glad it happened.
Same.
Back to El Hussein real quick, just a reminder for everybody. So far, this guy has been third at Kobe Trail, second at Zagama, first at Mont Blanc Marathon, first at Headlands Trail. Can he even be beaten this weekend? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because him and Patrick are the only ones with 2 wins, I think.
Yes.
Because Patrick won Kobe and Four Sisters. Has Remy won a race this year?
Nope, because he was second to El Hussein at Mont Blanc Marathon.
Yeah. So this does push El Hussein into the lead with 588 points to Patrick's 576. If Patrick beats him at Mammoth Trail Fest, obviously that will highly favor Patrick. But the Fantastics are so interchangeable. But yeah, we'll get more into Mammoth Trail Fest. But to wrap up these results, Mikel Rubio in 6th place, Frederick Thranchard 202 7th, Cesar Maestri 8th place, Bart Pierzhowski 204.
We'll get it right one day.
I'm so sorry, Bart. And then 10th place, Cade Michael, who's on the trail team, also 10th place at Broken Arrow this year. I thought this was a really, really strong 10th place for him.
Me too. I think it's a way stronger result than 10th place at Broken Arrow this year.
Yeah. I mean, these are the best sub-ultra runners in the world right now. So absolutely incredible result for him.
Missing from the top 10, Roberto De Lorenzi. He was in contention for a while. Did we ever find out if he finished?
Let's give it a quick gander. I think he did.
Let's see if I can
maybe
find
he
the
did
results again.
Actually, he's not showing up. So maybe he ended up pulling out.
Yeah, because he was up in the top 5, I'm pretty sure, like at the top of the second climb.
Interesting. I do want to note Mason Copy also was 11th, just outside the top 10. So
and
good
this is a pretty
for the American men.
Long race for him. He's been he was the one who won Cirque Series this year.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So super impressive.
Yeah.
I don't see him in the top 40, so my guess is that he probably dropped.
Yeah. But yeah, incredible. Congrats to Jeffrey Stern for first year of this race being in the Golden Trail World Series. It seemed like it delivered something a little different from the other races, fast and furious. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed. Follow Golden Trail World Series so you can see more replays of that. And before we get into our preview with Mammoth Trail Fest, we do want to give some love to some other local races here in America. But before we dive into the rut, here is a message from one of our partners. Hey fam, Dani here. Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Never Second. Never Second is an easy to understand modular system that allows you to create the exact amount of carbs that you want for your activity. Their products are meant to mix and match, which personally I love taking advantage of. So you can ensure that you're getting 30, 60, 90, or even 120 grams of carbs per hour. I have been using Never Second during my buildup for OCC, and it is all I will be using on race day. Like I mentioned, it's meant to be mixed and matched, and I've been taking full advantage of that. I love the C30 Fruit Punch Gel along with the Berry Plus. So if you're interested in trying Never Second, I'm a huge fan. Like I said, it's all I will be using for OCC. Be sure to use SUBHUB 25 for 25% off of all of your orders. Again, that's SUBHUB 25 for a 25% discount off all your orders at neversecond.com. That's NEVER2.com. Now back to the episode.
All right, let's talk the rut. This weekend had so many fun results, and this next weekend's going to have more fun results. Like the American trail racing season it's fast, it's hot, it is happening right now.
Yeah. Are you kind of, at least from you saying that right now, it does seem that American trail season almost starts with the ultras because everyone is, pursuing the golden tickets beginning of the year. As a sub ultra runner, it's always been really hard to find shorter distance races that have a lot of competition. Now
Yeah.
you have races like Gorgeous Waterfall and Big Alta, which is especially new coming in this year, but is always like 50Ks.
Yeah.
So you have that pursuit of Western states, and then it seems like the competition migrates to Europe for the summer. And then now with Golden Trail coming to America the past couple of years, you do have this fun remigration to America for these shorter races. So I do really like that. But yeah, the rut has been a staple for a long time. Have you raced the rut?
No, no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a sick race put on by Mike Foote and team up there in Big Sky, the ski resort up in Montana. And it is high altitude. Some parts are really, really technical, other parts not so much because you're on a ski resort. So the higher you get like this very famous scree skyline. And then as you drop out of that, you get more into like gravel and windy trail and stuff. But they've always created a really, really cool atmosphere. I know Adam Peterman is heavily involved in this race now too. It's been sponsored by the North Face for a really long time. But yeah, the rut delivered this weekend.
Yeah. I should we highlight your free trail fantasy
Oh yeah,
results
since
once
since
again?
I'm not racing, I want to make this episode as much about me as possible because I don't get to race. But I was third in free trail fantasy, guys. So just saying,
Congrats.
just say thank you, thank you. No, I'm kidding. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean the rut is just, well, the rut Headlands, like what we're gonna see it the next Golden Trail race is just a testament to how strong like American short distance mountain running has become over the last year, but like really has even continued to progress at a much higher rate, I would say, over this last like year and a half. You can have races like Headlands and Pikes and the rut and still have crazy fields. Like you're not like we're not just like so spread out that it can't still be competitive like it used to be.
Exactly. It's so cool.
So on the first day we had the VK. It looked pretty wild. It seemed to have snowed the night before.
Oh,
So that is rough. Like I remember when I ran Pikes Peak in 22, it had snowed the night before, and or no, it hadn't snowed the night before. That was the next year. And like when it comes to snow, it can either be really helpful or not helpful at all. Like if it's been
yeah.
packed down like it had been at Pikes Peak Ascent, like that seemed to help people move faster because it was less sandy up top. But this looked like untreaded, fresh, slippery, annoying snow.
Yeah. Yeah, Wild Struble had the same thing. I don't know if you've seen those videos. It was a UTMB race that a lot of people ran to requalify or to qualify for next year. And
Yeah.
there's points they were going off the trail and the snow was like up to their waistline. And they're just like, no, no, the trail is this way because they just like, yeah, so much
Yeah.
snow. But yeah, it looked absolutely freezing. Keep in mind with the rut, I'm pretty sure I would need to fact check myself. They hit like 13,000. It's a really high
It's
mountain.
super high. I'll
Yeah.
look at Strava while you're talking about the results.
Yeah, but the VK, absolute smashers in both of the races. We had American Pride and Joy, Jennifer Lichter, first place, 56:59. Claire Rhodes coming off a probably slightly disappointing OCC, second place in 58:30. And then third place, I'm pretty sure Caitlin Patterson has been on the USA team for cross country skiing.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, but she was third place in 60:28. So great women's field in the VK for the top three. On the men's side, Cam Smith, the man who cannot be denied in the VK. He is a VK master. First place in 46:08. Mika Boudon Rousseau. Actually surprised he chose this race instead of the Headlands race. Not sure if that's because he's not fully committed to the Golden Trail World Series or just wanted to, I mean, he crushed the Broken Arrow VK this year, so maybe he's just like on a VK journey, which is really cool. He was second place in 47:41. Ryan Becker, third place in 48:40. How high is that mountain?
It looks like they start at 7,500 feet and they finish at 11,100, like just over 11K. So still disgusting
Yeah.
high.
Yeah, it's like Mammoth. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, incredible results there. Then was the next day the 50K?
The next day was the 28K, and I think the 50K was on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because Claire also ran the 50K and her race was yesterday. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Friday VK. Yeah. 28K, 50K. On the 28K, I have run this race and it is a lot of freaking climbing, a lot of exposure on that ridge line, like I was saying. And just like these giant chunks of talus that it, if you run in talus, there's different types of talus. There's like talus that you could kind of ski down, and then there's talus that is sharp and light and
Honky.
chunky. That's kind of bigger, but this talus is the kind that if you step on it, it can pop up and just slice your leg. It's honestly my least favorite kind of talus, but it makes for a good time. Um, but Cam Smith comes back with a back-to-back win, first place in 303. Scott Patterson, he won the Minotaur or Meet the Minotaur up in Canada this year, has won the Crow's Pass race up in Alaska many, many times. Second place in 310. Third place, Skyrunner Extraordinaire, Johnny Luna Lima in 311. So very close between second and third. And then on the women's side,
On the women's side, we got Bailey Kowalczyk in first place. This is her third time winning the 28K at the Rut consecutively. She finished in 335. Last year, she ran 319. And in 2022, she ran 347. My guess is that this race was a little bit slower just because they still had some snow up top.
yeah.
The 50K seemed to not have any, but the second day still did. Jen Lichter in second place in 337, doubling back from her win in the VK, and Denali Strabel finishing in third place in 355.
Yeah, that's also a very close race between Bailey and Jennifer. I mean, the video of Bailey coming in, you could definitely tell she was running
For her
scared or
life.
yeah, for her
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if I remember correctly, the last 2, 3 miles, it does get more runnable, and I would not want Jen chasing me down as well.
And it's pretty switchbacky, right? So like you might even be able to see.
It's not so much switchbacky as it is windy. It's like if you're on a mountain bike, it'd be
Yeah.
great like that,
Would
but
you be
not.
able to see somebody if they were only 2 minutes behind you?
It's kind of in the trees like
Okay.
Asp or like GoPro games. So yes and no.
Yeah. You'd have
Yeah.
to really be looking, which is dangerous
Yeah,
when you're
but the
running that
last
fast.
mile for sure you could see the person because it opens up and like
Yeah.
yeah. So
Cool.
really cool to see those two greats run against each other. And then last but not least, the 50K, like EmKay said, it looks like the snow melted out. Claire Rhodes, give it to our girl. Big applause.
Yeah.
New course record in 5:45, which yeah, I mean, what else do you want to say about that? I mean, it must have been Jen's course record.
I would think so because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Jen had it. But yeah, new course record. I mean, big comeback after like having to drop out of OCC. That's a race that she should definitely be proud of. And she beat Jasmine Lothar, who won the Speed Goat 50K this year. Jasmine finished in 5:53. She also had a DNF at CCC, so I'm sure the two of them are feeling much better after a nice little race at the women's 50K here. And then Hannah Ozowski finishing in third place in 5:56, like putting some pressure on Jasmine there. And then on the men's side, Mike Sinceri, first place in 5:01. This is his second consecutive win at the race. Ryan Becker doubling back from the VK, gets second place in 5:09. And Scott Patterson also doubling back from the VK, gets third place in, oh no, he did all three. Did he
Wow.
do all three? Yeah. Because he got fourth in the vertical. He was second in the men's 28K and third in the men's 50K. Damn.
Wow.
Great job, Scott.
Wow. Wow, that's insane. Holy moly. Do they have a triple crown like Broken Arrow?
I don't know if they have an award for it, but like Scott should get it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Wow, that's wild. Yeah, it's kind of confusing because it looked like Jen ran 5:35 last year, but maybe it was a different course that they ran because then the year before that she ran 6 something.
Yeah, I was very confused about all the course record stuff this weekend.
Yeah,
So maybe last year was a short course. Maybe
yeah,
it's kind of like OCC.
yeah. But yeah, just a reminder, I mean, Claire Rhodes and Jasmine Lowther both coming off of a rough time at UTMB week with OCC and CCC, that if it doesn't go as you planned or had hoped to, there's still plenty of opportunities to race and use your fitness. I mean, we saw this with the Olympics too, you know, like just because it doesn't happen on the day that you want it to happen, you still have, you know, other opportunities. So yeah, huge congrats to them to come back and both have really strong races here.
Yeah. And we're going to do a quick rundown of Pikes Peak Ascent and Marathon, which is a classic American race coming up this weekend. But before we do that, here is another word from our sponsor.
Hey all, Dani here, professional trail runner and co-host of the SUBHUB podcast. Last year, after getting sick before a big race, I started looking into natural ways to boost my immune system. So I embarked on a little research journey, trying out a few different options. And you know what? I found myself reaching for one set of products again and again, and that was Beekeepers Naturals. And guess what? They are now a partner of the pod. Founded with a mission to reinvent the medicine cabinet, Beekeepers Naturals offers an array of immune-boosting products free from harmful chemicals and artificial ingredients. Their hero ingredient is called propolis. It's nature's defender of the hive, packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. While my personal favorite product is the throat spray, they also have lozenges, syrups, and a bunch of great options for kids. So if you're looking for a natural option to boost your immune system, consider trying Beekeepers Naturals products. And be sure to use the code SUBHUB20 for 20% off of all of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com.
So Pikes Peak, the first year in like 3 or 4 years where it hasn't been a Golden Trail World Series race of some sort. For the first 1 to 2 years, it was a marathon, and then it was the Ascent for 2 years. So kind of interesting. It does seem like they moved it back a week from its old date, because I feel like it was always 2 weeks after OCC, at least the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think so too, just looking at it. And Pikes Peak, it's just such a legendary race. I think the race dates back to 1956, which makes it one of the oldest races in America. And I think with its location being in Manitou Springs and of all states, Colorado, where a lot of historic trail and mountain runners have come from, it's just, if you haven't done it, like myself,
You should do it.
it should be on your bucket list. Admittedly, I've always been a little intimidated by the altitude until I moved to altitude. So I definitely need to do it at some point too. But they've always had, at least from my understanding, you know, you have the uphill option or the up-down option. And it also can have, like, from what I've heard, you can speak to this, I'm sure, is that because it's so high in the location of it, like the humidity can affect like how hard it feels at times. I don't know. Some people have gotten really scientific with this race with like, oh, the air pressure pushes down and the barometer, blah, 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 blah. But regardless, Pikes Peak
It's a
is
hard race.
It's a hard race. But yeah, we have some stellar Colorado competition coming into this year's event. On the women's side, on the Ascent, we have Anna Mae Flynn, who was third at the Bar Trail Marathon last year, fourth at Broken Arrow VK last year. I really, really hope she's lining up for this race. This is right up her alley. We have Brittany Warley, who was 10th at the Pikes Peak Ascent in 2021, Shayna Barbash, second at Quad Rock 25 miler, and Rachel Rudel, second at Moab Trail Half last year, which was the USATF Trail Championships. So some incredible Colorado talent on the women's side. On the men's side, it's pretty stacked, you know, like up front here, you have Seth Demore, who was third 2017, second in 2019, fourth in 2023. The latter, obviously, or the last one being Golden Trail World Series last year. Joe Gray has won this race 3 times, has had some of the fastest all-time performances. Kiernan Nay fifth this race in 2019. And then Evan Kibet, we don't know too much about him, but we think he trains with Joe Gray.
Yeah, I think he's one of the athletes that Joe trains with, but like typically is a track guy, maybe. I couldn't find very many results, but if he's a track guy, the Ascent is like perfect, honestly. And he probably lives in Colorado Springs as well, so he's used to the altitude. The marathon side, we've got, I wish I knew that some of these people were running for sure or not, because I feel like I saw that Sarah Beal was on the 50K list for Mammoth. So don't know which one she's running, but on the women's side, we have Sarah Beal, winner of Gorge 50K this year, the CR holder at JFK at like 6:06 or something. So very speedy, very fast. Jenny Yeaman was 10th at Speed Goat 50K this year. She was 5th at this race last year, and it's her 3rd time running it. I think the year before that, she was like 10th or 11th. So probably will be doing better this year. Chrissy Lofgren, 9th last year at the marathon, 4th at Telluride Mountain Run Half this year. And I'm interested to see if this one actually shows up, but Marcella Vasanova is signed up. She did just finish CCC 2 weeks ago, but she was 11th at Pikes Peak Ascent in 2022 when it was a Golden Trail World Series race. The men's side, we have a handful of athletes from Mexico coming up to this race, which is very cool. But to lead it off, we've got Jonathan Aziz, who won this race in 2022. Anthony Williams, couldn't find a lot of trail results for this guy other than that he won the Ultra Race of Champions 100K this year and is pretty speedy on the roads. Eater Antonio Belmont Sanchez from Mexico was the 2023 Desafío Las Nubes 50K runner-up. Jupiter Carrera is running this race, who was 2nd at Black Canyon this year. He didn't have the best day at Western States, but this is definitely, like, as somebody who runs marathons, a great course for him. Cam Smith did just win the Rut VK and the 26K. I would imagine he's probably running this race because he is a Colorado local, so it's not that far for him to travel. Would love to see him run this race. I hope he does. Darren Thomas. Darren was telling me last night that he has run this race a total of 10 times. He's run the marathon 8 times, the Ascent 2 times, and 5 of those times he has been in the top 5. So the dude knows the course. He's a Colorado Springs local. He lives in Reno now, but he grew up there. David Sinclair is listed on this race. Very curious to see if he's coming. 1st at Broken Arrow this year, 1st at Speed Goat, both in course record times. So if he's here, he'd be very hard to beat. And then Hector Rodriguez, also from Mexico, was 3rd at Puerto Vallarta 50K last year.
Yeah, we love to see those international fields, even though it's not part of Golden Trail World Series. And I mean, they do pay 5 deep, which is really cool. Most races pay 3 deep, and there is a course record if you are feeling like you can beat Remy Bonnet's 2-hour Ascent on the men's side, and Kim Dobson's record of 2:24:58, which has been there since 2012. That is a very stout record.
Yeah.
So yeah, super stoked to follow Pikes. Best way to follow is their live results link. If you go onto their website, sometimes I think they have a camera just posted at top, but it can go in and out depending on how the weather and the service is handling all that stuff. But yeah, all right. Last but not least, we have Mammoth Trail Fest. Let's go.
Danny's hometown.
This race, first and foremost, thank you Fast Women for giving us the shout out on your newsletter this week. We really appreciated the love. Hopefully you enjoy this preview as well. So first and foremost, Mammoth Trail Fest, 2nd year in the Golden Trail World Series. Obviously the World Series enjoyed this course. Similar to Headlands, it is definitely one of the faster courses for speedier athletes. The caveat here is that you are at high altitude. This year, it is the 5th race of the Golden Trail World Series. Again, just a reminder, because Poland was canceled when they're originally... 7th race?
7th, yeah.
7th race, because there's supposed to be 8 races.
And final.
And final.
Before the final.
Before the final. Whereas last year, it was the 6th race.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And yeah, a couple of things we've been considering coming into this race while you are planning your free trail fantasy is the last 2 years, athletes have had 2 altitude races, right? So like last year, the athletes went to Pikes Peak and then came to Mammoth. This year, they're coming from basically sea level to Mammoth. So definitely going to lean towards athletes who either live at altitude or historically race well at altitude. Similar to last year, the weather is dropping, and I am a current present time weather woman in the town, and I can attest. It was really warm last week. This morning, I woke up 7:30. My car said 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So there is a cold spell shifting in. I could see it in the mountains as well, all the gray clouds, and there is scattered thunderstorms and snow on the forecast for the next 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, it'll be a little wild. And it is going to be interesting to see how this final race happens or like runs down here in the States, because like you said, the last 2 years, both races have been at altitude, but also the last 2 years, Pikes Peak Ascent has been the first race, which is just uphill. This race had 3 like just screaming fast downhills, which will make it harder for some people to recover and come back for just this up down race.
Totally. Because, yeah, whether you are newer to the trail space, maybe you're listening to learn more about the trail space, at least from our personal experience, is running hard uphill does work your energy system quite a bit, and obviously muscularly, but nothing, it is hard to replicate the fatigue of a downhill. And to have 3 very fast downhills in your legs coming into this race, I suspect this downhill will feel a little bit longer to people versus last year coming off of solely an ascent coming out of Pikes Peak Ascent.
Yeah. Some changes from last year to this year. Last year, the race started at 7:30 a.m. and it was super, super cold. This year, the race was moved back to 9:45 a.m. for the women, 10 a.m. for the men, but it is not looking to be as cold. It might actually be close to a little bit warm, I might say, at 10
Yeah, in
a.m.
quotes.
Like, yeah, in quotes. But the big thing there being that the women are starting 15 minutes before the men this year. So at Headlands, the men and women got to race on separate days, which was super great. But it's also really nice that the women get to start ahead of the men, just so like, and it's not all women. It's actually just like the top. I don't know if they have a number that they used, but it's like the elite women start at 9:45, and then the elite men and everybody else start at 10 a.m. So it just gets rid of like you having to weave through maybe some men that went out too hard, because that does happen quite often in races for women. And after running the race with just women last weekend, I'm super stoked about this.
Yeah, I am too. I think it allows the media team to easily to follow the leaders closely. And, roughly the women probably are going to finish 15-ish minutes later than the men. It depends on how everybody is running. So you'll have the winners, the men's winner and the women's winner potentially coming in at the same time, if not just within a few minutes of each other, depending on how each of the races strategically go out and, how it ends
That'll
up
be
going.
super hype.
Super hype. I know. That'd be
Yeah.
it'd be cool if like I think it's like the New Haven Road race where they offer a course bonus for whoever actually crosses the line first.
Ooh, that
That'd
would
be
be so
be
fun.
so cool. Yeah. Maybe we're on our way there. Trail is just so hard, right? Because it depends on the course and et cetera, et cetera. But to give you a rough idea of how this race could potentially be executed, last year the women's leaders hit the summit in around an hour 18. So with us starting at 7:30, we got to the top just before 9 a.m. and then it started to heat up. So that whole first climb was really cold. Like I was wearing merino wool under my jersey. I had a head thing. I had gloves. Whereas this year they could be hitting the summit in roughly just after 11 a.m.
Really
Which
perfect,
is
unless it's
so
windy.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to be seeing that many gloves and stuff like that. I mean, Judith Wider even said she wore her vest last year for extra warmth. The course itself, because it's going to have rained and snowed, super ideal conditions. As someone who lives on the east side, like our kitty litter is notorious. It's like running up sand at some points. So that is going to make, I think, the climb, that alone will help the climb go faster, not just because of the players that are running this year. So I think that'll be really nice.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to this course because it's just one uphill and one downhill basically.
Yeah.
But I know that there's that tiny, tiny little uphill right before the
It's
last
over
runnable
before you
3
know
miles.
it. It's chill. It's chill. You literally just have to be like, I just need to get up this because I'll be downhill again.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought I was most scared about the stairs at the end last year.
Oh yeah, I've run
Yeah.
those stairs 3 times now. I don't know if you
That's
guys
true.
know this about me, but
She's a 2-time
I'm
champion.
the queen of Mammoth. I have won the Dragon's Back Ascent, I have won the 26K, and I have won the 50K.
Oh,
So
pure royalty. I'm in
yes, yes, yes. So
love
yeah,
it.
those stairs though, every time I'm like running down them sideways, like please
Yeah.
don't fall, please don't fall, because you're like within
Almost there. Yeah.
200 meters of the finish.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that I could see. Well, we'll get into it, but El Hussein and like Philmon sprinting again.
Yes.
Yeah, before we dive into the players, which are very similar to the ones we just witnessed at Headlands, besides a couple of extra great ads, the course itself is roughly 17 miles. There's not many places where you're like cutting out tangents besides maybe like some of the initial off the top descents. And the elevation is roughly 3,500 feet, 3,500 feet. And that all comes in the first climb with maybe like that climb that EmKay is talking about in the downhill. It feels terrible, but it's probably only like 200 feet of a climb because you've already been slamming your body down the hill. It just, any 5 feet would feel like 1,000 feet. And last year, the women's winning time was 2:18:20. Judith Wider. I was second in 2:19:13, and then Madalena Floria 2:23:06. And then on the men's side, Remy Bonnet. I've never noticed this before, but in Ultra Sign Up it says Rami Bonnet.
Rami.
Rami. He ran 1:54:48. 1:58:48 for second, Mika, and then Roberto De Lorenzi was third in 1:59:53. There was a lot of people who took wrong turns last year, though, including Madalena Floria, Patrick Kipnego, and the list goes on. Chad Hall at one point was second place, and then the sweetheart that Chad Hall is admitted that he took a wrong turn and then was taken off the results, unfortunately. So I think this year they're really going to make sure that people are taking the right turns.
And also, I think the moral of the story there is put the GPX from the website on your watch. Because I remember Remy Bonnet like put out so much shade about that too, because everybody was like mad about getting lost, and he was like, well, I had the course on my watch, and he like won. So I was like,
exactly. I mean, I thought the same of that too. It's like there was no one to tell him where to go, and he won.
He just followed the course.
Yeah, so put the GPX on your watch. But regardless, hopefully the flags are there, because there is a couple of really tricky wrong turns. I even ran the course like twice, and I was like, am I going the right way? This is really confusing. I will say, as a female who was in the race, I think the winning times can be faster. I think from being actively participating in it, there's time to take off on the climb and a little bit on the downhill. I don't know a ton on the downhill though. Like, we were running pretty fast.
You guys were moving pretty fast, yeah.
Yeah. Especially when Judith was like looking back at me, and I'm like, she knows I'm here. So then she just started kicking into, but yeah, I think there is time to take off on the climb. And with it being warmer this year, those will be super ideal conditions. So I won't be surprised if we see closer to like 2:12, 2:15 on the women's side. But we'll see. It depends on how people are feeling post Headlands and with altitude.
Yeah, again, because last year there was no downhill in anyone's legs leading up to that race.
Exactly. And with how fast the men were just running at Headlands, I think Remy's 1:54 is actually superb, to be honest. If they go faster, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also would be extremely impressed if they like take minutes off,
Yeah. Remy, whether it's cold or hot, is going to climb Dragon's Back pretty much the same. Like he is the greatest climber in the world, probably.
Yeah,
So
and he was
yeah,
just coming off of Pikes Peak historic course record.
yeah,
So I think
feeling
last year
it.
he was in tip top shape.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like people to watch for, hopefully you listened to our episode last week, but it's going to be a lot of the same people that we mentioned above in our recap for Headlands, but also mentioned last week in the episode. So on the men's side, El Hussein, El Azoui, just won Headlands, is coming back, has an insane finishing kick. This might even be like a better course for him just because the downhill is so much longer and sustained. So in my opinion, definitely going to be very hard to beat El Hussein. Philemon Kiriago, just second. His gap, was 5:11 on Strava, like we were saying. His last downhill 5K 14:11. So even though this hill is more sustained, like he's still going to have no problem. Philemon's biggest problem will be it's at altitude. Every race that he's run at this high altitude has been kind of rough for him. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes because last year before he got lost, he was right with Patrick, which is surprising.
Yeah, and then both Philemon and Patrick were the first, like all year, to put any sort of pressure on Remy, and
Yeah.
it was at this race.
Yeah.
So I do think this course could suit them, with Philemon not having like Pikes before to get that kind of rough one out of the way.
Yeah.
Will be interesting, but the dude is in incredible shape. Second at Sears and all, second at Headlands.
Yep. Patrick Kipnieno will also be there. I could see him doing better at this race than he did at Headlands. Not that Headlands was a bad race for him.
Yeah.
He was so close to them. But like I said, he was closing in on Remy in those final like meters last year before he got lost. And he typically does well at altitude. Like he did very well at Broken Arrow. Both Cirque Series races that he won, he had no problem with. So he shouldn't struggle with that at all. Remy Bonnet, last year's winner, coming back. This like I'm Remy's having like not a Remy year, and it's interesting. Is Remy not having a Remy year, or is everybody else finally catching up to Remy?
Yeah, I think it's the latter because Remy's still running
So
insane
fast.
times. Yeah, I think it's not surprising Philemon and Patrick have caught up to him. We already saw kind of inklings of that last year, and last year was like their first trail season ever.
Yeah, yeah.
El Hussein has been, fighting with Remy for many of years. Maybe this is just his year in the spotlight a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're called the Fantastics for a reason.
You don't know who's going to be where on any given day.
Yeah, on any given day. To me, this is our Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Cole Hawker, Nagoose, and Josh Kerr battle. It's just who puts it all together on the day. And honestly, in my opinion, who recovers the best from Headlands. They're all en route to Mammoth Lakes, and the guys do have one less day of rest than the women's do. And obviously, they left it all out there. So we're going to see how they recover from that. And then, yeah, the rest of the folks that were in the top 10, Christian Allen, Miguel Rubio, all those guys will be here. There's no one that's standing out right now in this moment as who I have a potential ad or just like a strong potential. It's like, oh, now that it's Mammoth, they're going to be in the mix with El Hussein, Philemon, Patrick, Remy. Like, I just think those four are incredibly solid right now. And then it's a battle for 5th through 10th. But I hope we get surprised, maybe discover someone new.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because a lot of the guys who were even in the top 20, I would say probably 98% of them are also coming back to Mammoth. So you could see a lot of movement between that 5 to 20 even.
Yeah, you know what kind of came to mind though is Mika coming here, and is that why he did the Rut VK instead?
To save his legs. Yeah, because he is on the
Exactly.
list. So if he's coming, he's definitely a little bit more fresh than everyone else. And he did really well at this race last year.
Yeah, he ended up second with a couple of wrong turns. But I mean, he was 5th at Broken Arrow 23K along with the VK. So he is someone that could definitely show up to this. So we'll throw Mika in the mix there as well, maybe being a little less tired, hoping that he shows up.
Yeah. And then on the women's side, I mean, kind of same thing, like the top 9 of the top 10 women are coming back. The only person that we know is not coming back as of right now is Julia Font, because she already has 3 races. Joyce won the Broken Arrow VK and 26K earlier this year, so she's shown that she can do well at altitude. She can also do well at sea level. Like, watching that woman run almost makes anything that I do. I don't know about you, Dani, but I look at her run and I'm like, wow, I'm working so hard all the time. And Joyce is just out here like, boop, 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 boop. Like, I'm sure she's working hard, but she makes it look so easy.
Yeah. No, she has a beautiful form for sure.
Yeah.
It's very fluid.
And she's got a very calm race face.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she just has a calming presence about her. But yeah, I mean, she had an incredible race. It sounds like she pulled away on the last climb, kept that lead. Madalena Floria is wicked fast too, like on this runnable stuff. And yeah, with Lauren Gregory, I am very, very curious to see what happens with Judith Wider and Meow Yao. Again, like, I'm not them, but my personal experience and watching other people is like, after I raced after my first race after OCC, the second half, I was in so much pain. And the rest of my year, I just was really tired. Like,
Yeah.
it was really hard to get any more out of my legs racing so close to OCC. And we all know OCC was really freaking hard race this year. Like, Meow Yao, you would argue, could have won Headlands. Like, that's her kind of race too. She's super fast, and she was back in a very great 6th place. But if she hadn't run OCC, I would have picked her as a favorite to win.
Well, and they both admitted on Instagram this week that it was like too quick of a turnaround. And I think it was either Judith or Meow who was like, but now I have like, 7 days to prepare for the next race. And in my head, I'm like, that's not a lot of time if you're already feeling like you're tired and then you ran hard.
And then you go to altitude too, where like, if you're not acclimated, it actually, I mean, you've experienced, anyone who lives at altitude know this is like, once you get back, even if you live at altitude, the first couple days, you're just, is really tiring. So to be recovering from a race. So yeah, I'm very, very curious to see what happens with them. With that being said, they both have a lot of experience. They're both wickedly talented, strong, and they're both of their strengths. One of their best strengths is their downhill. So if they can just get to the top in position, they can send the downhill and like still have a great race. I just don't know if it's like enough to win this race this year. So yeah. However, we do have 2 women entering the chat that we think will add some fun to this race this year. First and foremost, Rachel Drake, American GOAT in American status. 235 in CIM last year, goes on to win Black Canyon's 100K, debuts top 10 at Western States in her debut 100. Rested for a bit, quite after Western States. She was signed up for OCC. I don't know, maybe it was a combination of the both. I'd have to ask her of like whether it was being tired, or I know she started her residency, I think in Salt Lake. But regardless, she recently won a Cirque Series race in a wicked fast time at Alta in Utah. And yeah, she's showing up for Mammoth Trail Fest. And what I find something really to note with Rachel is that she lives at altitude now in Salt Lake. So previously she lived in Portland somewhere. So I think coming to altitude is not gonna shock her at all, even though it's higher altitude.
Especially because she's been there for like several months at this point. So like, she's definitely got some acclimation going. Plus, Rachel Drake is just like probably the most versatile athlete that we have here in America. So whether she's running a 5-mile race or a 100-mile race, you can almost guarantee that she's going to be somewhere up front.
Amen. And then we also have Tabor Hemming, who we didn't get to see the end of her OCC. We don't know how that would have ended up, but for sure she would have been in the top 10 at some point, or finished in the top 10. Unfortunately took a fall there, and she'd been dealing with a back disc. I want to say. Third at Canyons 50K, first at Big Alta 28K, stellar 3rd place at Broken Arrow 26K. So really excited to see her in the mix. And then last athlete, she did race this past weekend, but we do think this course is going to suit her. Anna Cassius, she placed 16th. So yeah, my question is, Rachel entering the chat, Tabor entering the chat. And then you have Lauren Gregory, who picked up her first podium, Anna Gibson, who got 7th. Anna also has a lot of experience at high altitude. Who's going to be our first American?
It's a hard pick for me between, I think, Rachel and Anna.
Okay. All right.
I think that's a hard one. Those are like 4 women that they're no joke.
I know. I know. I'm super curious as well. I would say, because Tabor also comes from high altitude. Anna and Tabor both have the experience having raced last year, so they know how this course runs. But yeah, I don't know. I would think Lauren if she lived at altitude, but she doesn't live at altitude. So I don't know how she does at altitude, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
grew up in altitude, but has been away from it since she graduated high school. So
yeah, it's hard to say, but those are some incredible women. And my take is that, okay, because we had Lauren, Anna, Allie, and Rachel. So 4 Americans. I think we are going to have,
I think we have more at Mammoth.
yeah, I think we're going to see 5.
5, yeah, 5 to 6.
5 to 6, yeah. I think so. Which would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, any more? Wait, you're racing too, EmKay. I keep forgetting.
Oops. I guess I'm racing. Yeah, I'm racing again.
I'm like
We'll see.
looking at you. I'm like, who else? Come on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that Mammoth is definitely a course that suits me a little bit better, but I still am not going to be like, if I get top 10, it will be like, holy shit. It's not like I'm going into it being like, oh yeah, I'm going to be top 5. But I'm not counting myself out because I definitely could be top 10 at this race. Like, no, for sure.
Oh yeah,
So.
definitely top 10. How do you think this race goes on both sides before we get into our picks?
Like, how are people going to run it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty similar to last year where people go out hard because it's like kind of road pretty open in the beginning. And there's really no point in holding back at all because there's only one climb. So basically, I think the race will be mostly decided by the time you get about a quarter of the way up Dragon's Back. And then you just have to like work as hard as you possibly can and hang on the downhill. There's a few people, obviously, like Judith Wider, I think Madalena and Joyce, who can attack that downhill maybe better than some people, but it's so runnable that it's not like there's something crazy that's going to happen, I think, on the downhill. So I think that the race is almost decided a quarter of or to halfway up Dragon's Back.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would say it's like not the last mile of Dragon's Back, that middle section. We're already
Where
going
it's
to
kind
know
of
the
rocky.
positions. Yeah. You really got to get there as fast as you can because, like you said, the downhill is not technical. Everyone can run downhill, and you could kind of see people, so it's easy to keep your foot on the gas pedal when you can actually see people running ahead of you and behind you.
I imagine you have you can probably still see people in that final like 3 miles in the trees. I think that'll be the hardest part of the race for most people.
I think so too. Like if they didn't recover.
It's not very downhill. Like it's supposed to be downhill technically, but it's not really. It kind of feels flat by the time you get there. So if you're trashed from last weekend, trying to run fast there is going to feel terrible.
Yeah. And if you drop your nutrition like I did last year, that did not help me at all. I was just inevitably waiting for the bonk because it's an hour, it's a power hour because we got to the top at 1:17 and I finished in 1:18. Judith finished in 2:27. So it's like you're pushing for an hour and immediately you're like, when is this going to end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Hurt so bad.
But yeah, I'm not racing because I want to make this episode all about me today. But I'm super stoked to be out there. Hopefully I'll be live broadcasting. But if not, I'm gonna be cheering on my friends. So if you see me, come say hi. I plan on having a little fanny pack with all the SUBHUB stickers this time.
Oh, good.
Yes.
I'll have to give you the mini mics.
Oh, in the mini max, I should slap stickers on people as they're running past me. So we
just
just have like guerrilla marketing, just like bah, bah, just like slap them in the face and just
I
have
like
stickers.
it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it.
Last but not least, overall rankings, they're going to change after this race. Men's side, El Hussein's in first, Patrick's in third, Philemon's in third, Remy's in fourth. So there's going to be some movement based on how those guys finish. Women's side, Joyce first, Madalena second, Maud is third, Malin Osa's fifth.
Fourth.
Fourth,
Yeah.
Tresselbuff fifth, Meow sixth. It's so crazy. Only Joyce, Madalena, and Meow are here. So people are going to move up for sure.
Yeah. Because
where's Judith?
That was Judith's first race.
She ran.
She won Mont Blanc Marathon.
That's
interesting
right.
that she's not in this top bit, because didn't Sylvia like only run? She must have run another race other
She
than
ran
Zagama.
Kobe.
Okay, I was like very confused, but
yeah.
Okay, so it's just because Judith only has one race.
Yeah.
So
okay.
this will change a lot.
Anna Gibson will go in there too with
Yeah.
this being her third race.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. All right, folks. Well, oh shoot. Podium picks? Do you want to try?
We can try.
Okay, go for it.
All right, on the men's side, I'm gonna go El Hussein, Patrick Philemon.
Oh, Remy not even in top 3.
Nope.
Okay. I think Remy's coming back with a vengeance.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Remy. Oh wait, do I think that actually? Actually, I'm gonna say he does, but he falls slightly short. And I'm gonna go Patrick, Remy, El Hussein.
Okay.
I think Patrick's gonna shine on this course.
Okay. I like it.
All right. Women's side.
Women's side. I'm gonna go Joyce winning.
Mm-hmm.
I think Madeline is still second. I think Anna Gibson's third.
Ooh, that's what I was gonna say too. I agree. I think Anna is gonna shine on this race. She was 4th last year, so she knows this course. I was thinking either Anna or Rachel, and Rachel because she's coming in really fresh, or supposedly fresh. So,
but
Anna or Rachel.
That's also med school fresh. So
that's true. That's true. But I do think Anna or Rachel are going to be the top Americans in my opinion. Yeah, but who knows? They might just repeat the same podium. So we'll see.
I mean, who knows? I'll probably just win it. So it's fine.
That's true. I mean, we keep forgetting about EmKay D. Sullivan. I love it.
Make sure you find Dani. Also, make sure you go check out Poseidon Bikes, because they will also have a tent set up at Mammoth, and we loved working with Poseidon Bikes. You guys should check them out.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, leave a rating on Spotify, Apple. We love you guys, and we will see you this weekend at Mammoth Trail Fest. Come say hi. This has been the SUBHUB podcast, brought to you by Free Trail.